Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Supreme Diaries, and I'm your host, Supreme Kumbaya. Today, I want to speak about something that I believe can be much more harmful than racism. And I believe it can be much more harmful than racism because it is subtle, and therefore we pretend it does not exist. We pretend it is not a thing. Unlike racism is easy to identify, and racism is out in the open. And victims of racism can cry out loud, I'm a victim of racism, and the perpetrators of racism can be outed and sometimes brought to justice. And therefore, the whole world has taken a stance that racism is wrong and unjust, and therefore, something should be done about it. Unlike what I want to speak about today, which is colorism. And I would first like to categorize colorism as a sibling to racism. And to define colorism is the prejudice or discrimination against an individual, group, or ethnic group based on their skin tone. For an example, that's where we find that light skinned people enjoy privileges that their dark skinned counterparts can only dream of, especially in terms of employment. Light skinned people enjoy much more employment opportunities, especially in the media, more than their dark counterparts based on their skin tone, which is something that they have no control over. And before I go on and speak about my experience that I faced based on my skin tone and the effect that I think discrimination based on skin color has or can have on guys and girls in the long term, I would first likely I would first like to give give a brief I would first like to give a brief background of my understanding where colorism is rooted in. I believe that colorism is rooted in slavery, colorism is rooted in colonization, colorism is rooted in apartheid in the context of South Africa. Because during the slave practices, we found that the light skinned slaves were the master servants. They were referred to as the house niggers because that's where you would find the light skinned slaves in the master's house, serving the master, performing what the master deemed as sophisticated tasks, while the dark skinned slaves were out in the field doing the much more labor intense work, and hence they were referred to as field niggers. But because we live in a world that is backwards, even today, we still find that the world still upholds and perpetuates the standard of beauty and intelligence. The world still upholds the Eurocentric view or standard of beauty and intelligence that light-skinned people are much more beautiful and intelligent than dark-skinned people. Hence, that is why even today we find that light-skinned people enjoy much more employment opportunities as compared to their dark-skinned counterparts, and especially in the media, because even today in the media we find the representation of intelligence is of the representation of beauty and intelligence is 99% light-skinned people, which is not true and is wrong. And it is the use of the media that upholds and perpetuates this lie, discrimination, or this discrimination based on skin tone. And before I get on and speak about my experience, I would like to give one important point that made me want to speak about colorism today. I think it was about a month ago where my partner and our son were invited to her friend's daughter's birthday party, and I suppose her friend, upon seeing my son, she made a comment that she was afraid that my son would take my complexion. Just to give a little bit of context here, uh, compared to me, my son, and my partner, I'm the darker one between the three of us. So my son and my partner are light skinned compared to me. So she was afraid that my son would be dark skinned like me. So that evening, my partner got home and asked me, "Is it wrong being dark?" And I told her that it is not wrong and it shouldn't be wrong. But when you live in a world that is backwards, that still upholds the Eurocentric standards of beauty and intelligence, which 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 perpetuates the false narrative that beauty and intelligence is light skin, or light skin equals to beautiful and intelligent. So that is why we find ourselves in a place or in a world where all of a sudden being dark skinned is still a problem or is still being shone upon. And let me now get into my experience that I enjoyed growing up and discrimination that I enjoyed growing up in a colored community. So I grew up in a colored community and went to a colored school. So my peers and my friends were colored, and in extension that made them light skinned. That doesn't mean I didn't have dark friends, but only I can feel my pain. And I suppose my dark skinned friends, only they could feel their pain and only they can speak on their experiences. I remember, and to begin, it's not that these things only starts when we are teenagers or during puberty, but I think that's when those cuts cut deep and hurt the most, because during puberty or teenagehood, that is when we become self aware or self conscious of what we look like as compared to the next person. So that is when those comments actually stick and hurt for a very long time. So I remember that when we were out and about with my friends, they the ones who would get all the ladies' attention, all the ladies' affection, the ladies show them love, and I would have to stand aside and watch my friends bask in the glory and privileges of being light skinned, enjoy the ladies' attention. And I believe those are the type of things that makes some guys angry, aggressive, and resent their friends. But I would like to say, fortunate for me, I had an uncle who understood the environment that we were growing up in and the circles that I would find myself in. So we would have these conversations, and I suppose, like me again, I couldn't make sense of what he was saying, and therefore I understood that I cannot want to compete with my friends in terms of color, because there's nothing I can do about that. They are colored, they are light skinned, I'm a black person, I'm dark, and I cannot change that. So I had to find a way to level the playing field, to make myself feel worthy, to make myself feel like I belong. So I created an alter ego for myself that made me believe that I was much more intelligent than they were. I could have been wrong, but I believed in that. And just like as we were raised to believe that light meant intelligent and beautiful, but I also created an alter ego that allowed me to believe that I was smarter than they were. So I would find a way to always try and prove my point that, oh, well, you are handsome, cute, or whatever the ladies call you, but I am smarter than you. So that alter ego kind of helped me not to resent my friend, kind of helped me not to hate myself, not to be aggressive, as I have seen other guys who were discriminated against based on their skin color, especially from the ladies. When we are teenagers, all we want is the ladies' attention, the girls our age. And if a girl your age, you are trying to propose to her and she calls you names, she calls you Nyaman or ugly, because I mean, we are young at that point and we kind of insensitive. We don't understand what it does to the next person, you know. So I've seen other guys actually become very aggressive, but I guess my alter ego helped me not to become aggressive. And I guess I've been fortunate that I've never internalized those things, and I've seen what it has done to the people who've internalized them. Because then what they would do when they realize that they weren't getting attention from the ladies that they were hoping would give them attention, they would kind of probe them, and not realizing that would only get them called out. And when you are being called nyamane or ugly, it's kind of frustrating. It kind of gets to you. It hurts. So they become aggressive towards those girls and get physical. And that also just perpetuates the whole thing of nobody wanting to give you attention, because nobody wants a bully. You are coming across as a bully. So now you are coming across as undesirable and a bully. That makes the problem twice as what it should have been. So that is the problem that, or rather the effects that I think the sting of color discrimination has on guys. They become aggressive and sometimes they resent their friends, because I've seen that when we're in a company of girls, you'd find that some of us, the dark chants, when the ladies make a comment, say, I like your friend, I think your friend is cute. You would hear somebody say, Mara mina ngamshaya. I mean, loko kubiyapi? Where is that coming from? Which one ngamshaya? You understand? It's all a way of us trying to get attention, saying we are worthy, give us attention, we are somebody, we are also capable of something. That's why we now use force and masculinity to prove that we are also human beings, that we are also worthy of something. We deserve your attention. That's what it does to guys. But as I'm saying, I'm fortunate that I don't think it did that to me, because of the alter ego that I created. It kind of helped me pick up big time. And what it does to the ladies, I think it's far much more worse than what it does to guys. What this discrimination based on skin tone does to dark girls really hurts, because, as I'm saying, anybody who internalize these comments, You know, the other day I read a joke on Facebook where I think it was like a family setting, and this guy or whoever it is in that family setting asked, "Wabani lo lumnyama?" which means, whose black child is this? Just imagine if the child internalized that right up to teenagehood into adulthood. How are they going to feel about themselves? How are they going to think about themselves? They are going to feel like they are not attractive. They are going to feel like they cannot be loved. That is when these are the effects that it has on girls, that now we find women bleaching their skin. We find women going expensive and painful surgeries just to alter their skin colors, just so they can be light skinned. Do you understand what it means for somebody to do that to themselves? How much pain it must have caused them to want to change their skin color by any means necessary, you know, regardless of how much it's going to cost them, regardless of how much damage it's going to cause their skin, regardless of how much pain they will need to endure to undergo that process. Those are the effects that these comments and jokes that ignorant people say, loosely so, at family gatherings, at wherever we find ourselves. You know, it's even much more painful when it's coming from an adult, somebody who's supposed to be grown, matured, and understanding. I think in retrospect, I'm happy that I didn't internalize those things, because how would have I felt about myself? Because if I had internalized those things, I doubt that I would be sitting in front of this camera recording this, because then I would probably have thought that I'm too dark to be on camera, or I'm too stupid to be on camera, because then I would have internalized the Eurocentric standard of beauty and intelligence, which is a false narrative. It's a false narrative. I remember when we were in school, there were this group of girls that I think three or two out of the group of five were light skinned, and obviously, because of how we were raised and what the message that we internalized, that light skin is beautiful and intelligent. So the light skinned girls would always get the attention, and the dark skinned one would also have to stand aside, like I did, and watch their friend bask in the privileges of being light skinned. And now I come across this girl for work purposes, and then when I talk to her, she has substance up here. She's somebody who has a beautiful soul, somebody who has a beautiful heart, and that makes her beautiful. When I look at her, I see somebody who's beautiful because of what she has up here and what she has in here. So this is why I chose to make this video. It is because I want us to be a generation that teach our children and ourselves, if we haven't, to value what's up here, the substance that somebody has here. Is it good substance or is it bad substance? And what they have in their heart. Are they loving? Are they compassionate? Are they caring? Because I've stopped believing that skin color is what makes somebody beautiful or intelligent. And I improve because as dark as I am, I believe that I am intelligent. And I believe that I am worthy of love. I am worthy of people's attention that are on my level. So, and these are the things that want to teach my son to value. I don't want to teach my son to value his skin color just because he's light skinned and therefore that makes him better than everybody. That's a false narrative. That's a Eurocentric standard of intelligence and beauty, which is nonsense from the get go and has always been nonsense. And to show that is nonsense, I think it was like 2 years back on social media, light skinned guys were being bashed. It was a trend where light skinned guys were being bashed, being called simps and all those kind of names. And then you ask yourself, what is right, what is wrong? Is it being dark or is it being light? If being dark is a problem today and then being light tomorrow is the problem, that means then skin color is nothing. Skin color is nothing. What really matters is our values, our morals, the substance that we have in here, the love and compassion that we have here, and the beautiful souls that are within us. And those are the things that we should teach ourselves and our children to value. See you in the next video, guys. Oh, and please do share your experience that you had, you know.